In this video, we're going to explore getting a better inhale, which can set you up for a better exhale, and working on some rib cage expansion so that we can have somewhere for pressure to push back up and into off of the pelvic floor. So approaching this, we're going to talk about position first. What are some better ways that we can try if we're struggling with this? And that can be using your hands to make sure you're paying attention to getting the ribs moving and having them recoil with an inhale and exhale. If you can't, that's not a big deal, but your other options are coming into a 90-90 and using a ball. So it can be a ball in hook lying where we get the squeeze and the adductors zipping back up, or that can be 90-90 on the wall with the feet on the wall. And this is just because this position is reinforcing hip internal rotation. It's gonna allow us to breathe down into the posterior pelvis, and it can be a really great way to, again, just positionally set up. Now, don't forget about our better tips for breathing, which include towel rolls under your neck and head, perhaps a slight curve of the lumbar spine, and having your position of your gaze in position as well, so that we can have more optimal breathing in the first place. Then what we really want to do is get a better inhale first. And so sometimes that looks like trying to stretch the rib cage from the inside out. So we're going to talk about some slower controlled inhales that you're going to hear called waterfall inhale, which is breathing, pausing, breathing a little bit more, pausing, breathing a little bit more, versus a very fast pulling air type of inhale. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna think about staying wide. So let's talk a little bit more about this inhale focus. And I want you to come onto your mat. I'm gonna stay sideways just so I can talk to you a little bit better. And I want you to come onto your mat with either feet on the wall or in a hook lying position with the ball in position. Now remember all of our tips for setup with our towel roll, staying grounded through the foot and making sure you feel supported. Now with this, what we're gonna do is we're gonna work on stretching ourselves from the inside out. If you're someone who's prone to living in a rib flare or extended pattern position, this corresponds to an inhaled state of the diaphragm. If we are living in an inhaled state, if we're already inhaled, there's not much more to go into an inhale, and we often need to learn how to exhale from there. So it's going to impact the ability for this diaphragm to move through its full range. And if you're more narrow and compressed, you're gonna have a harder time getting that to happen. So if we're only focusing on our exhale, we're not getting a good stretch and position to start from anyways. So in this position, you can bring your hands to your ribs, tongue to the roof of your mouth. And we're gonna think about inhaling belly and lateral ribs. Pause, inhale again. Pause, fill up, we're filling the chest wall, our back is pressing into the mat, fill up again. And hold. And when you feel like your exhale is gonna come on, you're gonna naturally let that air out. So let's do two more like that. I'm gonna talk you through it. Inhale, expand, hands to the ribs, breathe in again, pause, not forcing the air, just slowly sipping in one more last inhale, pause. Think about feeling that expansion in the rib cage, and then open your mouth. As you softly let that air out, once we've stretched that rib cage, do you feel that more natural bottom up happening? Let's do it again. Inhale, fill up. Pause. Inhale, fill up again. Pause. Inhale, fill up one more time. And then open your mouth and exhale. Now we're gonna build upon that concept once more, taking it a little bit further. Now, once we get to that max expansion, think about keeping your hands to the ribs and keeping them wide. So the words stay wide. And I want you to think that as we are wide in that rib cage, our diaphragm is inhaled, so it's lengthened, right? It's coming down. Think about like a plunger. And as I stay wide at the top, as that diaphragm ascends, it's gonna pull the air back up with it. We're gonna get that bottom up contraction. So inhale, fill up. Pause. Fill up again. Pause. One more. Stay wide. Keep those ribs pressing into the hands. You can squeeze the ball or block, and then softly follow the pathway of the ribs with your hands. You want the ribs to come down last. Breathe in. Inhale again. Once more. Stay wide. "75% of the air out." I'm not crunching down after that. I'm not overly compressing through the top of the ribs, but that nice slow umbrella is quite literally picking the pelvic floor up with it from the bottom up while those ribs stay out and then come up to the top. So focusing on that in hook lying, focusing on that with feet on the wall, really pressing that idea of stay wide, and then first getting that nice stretch so that you can have somewhere for the pressure for the pelvic floor to flow up. So if our ribs compress first, there's nowhere for us to push pressure back up into, and it's gonna get bottlenecked. But if we stay wide, we've got lateral and back body expansion for the pressure to flow back up and into the rib cage. So using your hands, you can also always wrap a band around your rib cage, just a very light one, to give you the feedback that you're pressing out against it and to keep those ribs pressing out against it so that they come down last. So hopefully that was helpful, something we'll definitely work on and continue to talk about through our exercise phase, but somewhere you can practice this in a little bit more isolated situation if it's something you're struggling with.